know it's been a while since I posted over here on YouTube, so we're going to change that. Hopefully we're going to make some videos this season. Have a little bit of time in between tournaments right now, and one of my newest partners on the Elite Series, well, it's new officially, is itMolds and Victory Hooks. So I've used their products for years, especially itMolds. I've still got my dad's lead pot here that he used when he was probably my age or a little bit older, but still working today. And the good thing is now I'm going to show you guys a few tricks and tips about making your own baits or terminal tackle or jig heads or whatever it may be. And a lot of you may know that I make a lot of crappie stuff for crappie fishing, but that's not just it. I make a lot of stuff for bass too that I use in my boat for tournaments. And today I'm going to show you the shaky head. So they got a nice mold for the shaky head here. And I'll show you another little trick that's pretty neat. You can use the same mold, and it's just a little tip maybe to save you some money in the long run. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But I'm going to start out just by showing you how to make some shaky heads. Save you some money. Make whatever hook you want to put in it. I have a preference on hook, but put whatever hook and quit searching for the perfect shaky head, because you can make your own. So first things first, you obviously need a few things to get started here, and I'm going to run down what you really need just to make some shaky heads. Of course, you're going to need a mold, and actually I've already messed up because this mold's called the Shake It Jig, and not a shaky head mold. It's called the Shake It Jig. And the reason I like this one is you can see the inside of the mold, and I've sooted some of them there, but you can see it just has a collar and a little keeper and a 60-degree hook, and it also fits a 90-degree hook too. But I like it because you can Texas rig your worms. When you're throwing finesse worms on shaky heads, I like to just Texas rig them, slide them up onto the keeper, and then Texas rig them so they have a little bend in it. The screw lock style heads, there's nothing wrong with them. They catch plenty of fish, but it really makes your profile of your bait super straight. And I'm not always a big fan of that. They have molds with the screw lock style heads if you prefer that. It does make things a lot easier for as far as holding your bait onto the hook. But this one, I just like the way it makes your worm kind of almost crooked in a way. It gives it a little S bend. Helps it glide down. But this one has sizes all the way from a 1/16 to a 3/8, and I rarely use anything over a 3/16. So the two that I use mainly are an 1/8 and a 3/16. You can see where I've sooted those. And basically all I do with the soot is I'll show you, but it's just lighting a candle and holding it, and all it does is just puts a little layer of soot, and it helps your casting come out a little bit better. You don't have to do that. It's just something I've always done. It also helps heat your mold up a little bit, but once you get to pouring, then you really don't have to worry about it. But it's not something that you have to do. It's just something that I always like to do to help the lead come out of the mold a little bit easier. But you're going to need a lead pot, of course. This one is a Lee. I'll show you in a second. It's been passed down from my dad. It still works to this day. Works great. There's no reason to get a new one. It's very old. It's worked a long time, and if you invest in one, I'm sure they're made the same today. I'm sure you can still buy this exact model on DoIt's website, and it's going to last you a long time if you take care of it. You're going to need some hooks. You're going to need some lead, all of which you can buy at itMolds. They have starter kits. They have individual items you can buy. If you're not sure what to get, they have all the resources you need on their website, so you can figure out what you need. I'm going to pour a couple of these up and show you what they look like, and then we'll get into the paint, which is kind of tricky if you're just starting out. And then I'll show you the new trick that I've learned that's going to save you some money. The very first thing I like to do when I have a brand new mold, which this one's been used obviously, is the soot trick that I talked about earlier. You could see it in my mold where it was black, but you don't have to do this. I recommend doing it. It's always helped me a lot. I'm not sure what they recommend or what other people that make jigs recommend. It's just helped me get my keepers more fine and come out cleaner, and it's just helped me overall with the casting. So I'm going to show you how I do that. You just have to have a candle, little white candle, and just a little torch here, and you're gonna light your candle, just like that. And you gotta watch the wax. But all you're gonna do is take it and put that flame right on the heads and the keeper parts of where you're gonna be casting. And it'll turn, it heats it up also, but it'll turn it'll put a fine layer of soot on the molds, or on the mold itself. And it won't affect your pouring at all. It actually helps quite a bit. This is something my dad taught me. And just watch the wax dripping, because you don't want to get that on you. And you can see there, I didn't do the last one, but that's what you want. You want a fine layer of black soot over all your mold casting blanks there. So just helps things go a lot smoother. And that's the first step with your new mold. So we're gonna get our hooks out here and start pouring. I got the two hooks that we're gonna be using today. They're both the same model by Victory. One of them's a 4/0, one of them's a 3/0. Obviously you wanna use the 3/0 for smaller baits, smaller finesse worms, 4/0 for your slim shakes, trick worms, you know, 5-6 inch baits. And these are the two hook styles that I use. They're 60-degree hook, have a really sharp point, and they've got a little curve to the end of them, which I really like. Helps hook the fish. Fits perfect in this mold, and I'm going to show you how they turn out. Okay, so hopefully you can see what we got going on here. I know my face isn't in the camera, but that's okay. We got our 4/0 60-degree hook here from Victory. We have our mold, and you can see inside here, all the heads are labeled. Each individual cavity is labeled with the size, so you're not going to mess up. You know where to put the hook. We're going to put it in a 3/16 size there, because that's the size that I normally use for just about everything. We're going to close it up. You can pour multiple jig heads at the same time. I'm just pouring one for this video, but the third hole there is where we're going to pour our lead, and we're going to stick it underneath the lead pot. Real quick, just like that. You can see the top of the mold there where we poured our lead. This jig head turned out perfect. I take some side cutters usually, so I can just get it free of the mold. Sometimes they just pop right out. But you can see there, hopefully you can see there, perfect shake it jig. And what you're going to do with the extra lead here on the end where you poured it is take your side cutters and just clip close to the head, not to damage the actual jig head. And if you're real particular, you can take a file and file it down. Where I'm throwing these baits a lot of times in rocks and stuff, I might smooth it down just a little bit, but usually I can just smooth it down with my pliers enough to make me happy. If you're a perfectionist, you might want to keep a little file. But you can see there's our 60-degree shake it jig, perfect for shaky heads. And it's still bare. We still need to paint it. And I'm going to show you how I paint these jig heads to make sure that you can get them painted and the paint will stay on them and last you a long time, at least until you lose it to a tree or something, which is a good thing about pouring these. You can pour as many as you want, not to worry about, you know, purchasing them and losing them. So we're going to get to the paint here, and I'll show you how to do that. So we have our Protect paint here, powder coat paint, and Magic Craw Blue is my favorite color they make. It's beautiful, and it's really good on just about anything, especially these shake it head jigs. And you can see that I've put some tin foil, probably a little bit too much, on the eye of the hook. And it's going to save you some hassle in the long run if you do that. It takes a little extra time. I know people that just dip them without protecting the eye of the hook. I don't like to have paint in my eyelets of the hook, so I always cover it up with a little bit of tin foil. You don't want to get the tin foil on the head if possible, because it'll obstruct the paint, of course. But have our paint, have our fluid bed here. You don't have to have a fluid bed. I like a fluid bed. It just keeps your paint nice and fluffy. Makes your, if you're doing a lot of jig heads, it makes things go a lot faster. Doesn't clump up on the paint. And if you're just starting out, you don't have to have one. Just, you know, just shake your paint up every now and then when you're dipping them into the paint. But the fluid bed does help a lot. So we're going to take our torch that we had earlier, You can have a propane torch or or whatever. Just you don't have to have this. If we can get this one started, it's been giving me some problems. But we're gonna heat our head up just a little bit and dip our jig head. Of course, it's not gonna start now. I told you. Hey, we got heat. No, never mind. Obviously need a new torch. Should have checked on that before I did the video. We're gonna heat the head up quite a bit, and I'm struggling here because this torch is no good. And that should be good. Perfect. So, okay, we're gonna let that cool down just a hair before we take the tinfoil off. So here we go. Almost finished with our Shake It jig. This is the 3/16 size that I made. I don't know if you can really tell the color. Magic Crawl Blue, like I said, it's my favorite color. The eyelet, perfectly clean because of the tinfoil. Takes a few extra seconds to do it. Didn't hurt the paint job at all, if you can tell. And I'll get you a close-up shot of it, just how good it turned out here. But we're not quite done yet. We painted them. There's one more step, and then you're going to be ready to go fishing with your new Shake It jig. So we have one final step with the Shake It jig. We've got the paint on. We got the eye clear. Everything's nice and neat. We have our trusty George Foreman here, and the Protect powder paint, I think it's $3.50 for 20 minutes, preheated, of course. So what I'll do, and then obviously I'm just making this one for the video. I would have made 50 if I was making them for myself. You're gonna put it in your little oven, and what this does is it really helps your paint stick onto the jig head. So fishing it through rocks, it's gonna last. It's not gonna chip. It'll last a lot longer if you bake it on. And just set it 350. I have a little timer here where it's not preheated. I'll set it for 30 minutes, and then just wait. And then 30 minutes later, and then a few minutes after that, you can get them out and you can take them fishing. So we'll let this one bake a little bit. I'll rig up a shaky head for you and show you exactly what it looks like when it's completely finished. And then that's it, ready to go. So here's the little trick that I was telling you about earlier. So same mold, the Shake It jig head, and all you have to do is basically pour jigs without a hook in them, and you have as many Nico or NACO weights as you want. That's a real popular finesse technique. You can leave the ball on there if you want to and just put that into the end of your worm, but you can see that keeper, everything is going to stay nice and neat and stay up in the worm. I like to trim the head of it off and just put that part into the tail of my worm or the head of the worm for my Nico or NACO rigging, all that good stuff. It's a really inexpensive way. You've already got the mold, you've got the lead, you might as well just do it. Just pour a bunch of empty Shake It jig heads and trim them off with your side cutters, and there you go, as many NACO weights as you could want.